How are you? How'd you survive the storm?
Oh, wonderful. My sister-in-law. I revised. I always send it out to like 10 minutes. I learned that too. So
We have a bunch of sheds in our yard. My husband like we had a green one of those portable garage things. And I got up after daylight on Sunday morning. Looked out, the shed was gone. Everything that was in the shed was still sitting there. The shed itself had
you're the one.
On its way off, it bounced off. Took out the windshield of my car. Took out the light on the front of the garage. Hit another shed. Destroyed that. We've been down the car. Generator, so we had lights, refrigerator, freezer, water pump for the first couple of days. Well, you can be warm and dirty. People really think you can cross. You ran the pump, something about my office and bath was out for 3 days.
Good evening. My name is John Reinhardt. I'm the first chair of the Historic Preservation Commission. And this is our November 16, 2017, 5 p.m. meeting. And we are on Facebook. So, hold your temper. Don't be mean. Be nice. This is an important thing we're doing. I'm calling the meeting to order at 5:02. Number 2, approved meeting minutes from October 19th. I think all the board members have that.
We had October 19th and November 2nd.
Right, I was going to get right to that. I wasn't going to read that. Okay, are there any additions, subtractions?
I move we accept the minutes of October 19th November 2nd as submitted.
Okay, it's been moved and second, or do I have a second? Second. Moved and seconded that we approve the meeting minutes from October 19th and November 2nd. All those in favor, show your right hand. And that's passed. Okay, certificate of appropriateness review. That's what we've all been waiting for.
Hello again.
Sherry Dunbar is
Thank
back.
you for meeting with me tonight. Do you want me to hand out I've got 8 copies of everything. I don't know
Does Sherry have a,
where the
do you have a
8
copy that we're looking at?
why don't I hand out 4? I saw the ones that got scanned in and it didn't really show the windows. So these
Oh.
Right.
are much clearer.
I have a problem with this, just stating that by the terms of our ordinance, this needs to be posted 5 days in advance, and it could not be because there was a holiday. So I would have some.
I understand that, and because of the fact that we did have the election, I wasn't, I'm not sure anybody was prepared to go out and bet who's going to get what and where and how. And so I didn't do anything until I think we started to talk Thursday night, Thursday afternoon.
Well, we had talked several weeks ago. We've had a couple conversations, but that conversation that we had was on Thursday, as I was here at the town office dropping off my application for that. We had talked about if the vote went the way it did, that I would need to be on the agenda.
On the agenda, right.
Yeah.
And I think, I do understand what you're saying, Susan, because I had talked to Catherine Onorato, who is the administration assistant, and she pointed out that I had the time frame in there, but I decided because, not I decided, but I talked to people, and I think that we should go ahead of this because Sherry explained to me that there is a time frame on it, and I would like to be a little bit more lenient in dealing with things like this. And I do understand exactly what you're saying, because I try and stay within the rules, but I think sometimes,
I did mail out the notification to all abutting neighbors more than 5 days ahead of time, so that did get up.
I realize,
Yeah.
got your email.
Yeah.
Thank you. I hope that's noted in the minutes, my objection.
Yes.
and that's a good point, Susan, because I think we have to do both sides, but. So Sherry, why don't you go ahead
Okay.
and tell what we're doing.
So basically what I'm planning on doing is replacing all of the windows, the existing windows with same size windows, vinyl windows. I'm going with the fancier ones with a 3.5-inch trim. Costing me more, but I want to do it right. Same thing with the vinyl siding. This is, and I encourage you to look at it closely because it looks real. And I mean, literally until you get up and touch it, you don't know that it's not the real cedar shakes. There are some really cheap looking ones that I didn't like. I wanted to go with the better.
Is this the same siding that we use with Appleby?
It looks like it.
It looks like it, really close.
This is Certainty
Yeah,
Cedar Perfections.
I think so. I don't have the exact picture out here, but
Well, you
it was
approved,
passed. though.
you approved me, when I was doing Hooper Street, you had approved me to do some
With
vinyl
this one,
siding.
yeah.
Not with this one, this is a little bit better one.
Mhm.
And I felt because of where the location of where my home is, it's more, right, visible. And I wanted it to really look real.
Good.
So,
What is the actual date of your home? Do you have
well,
any
the
record?
town record says 1853.
1853.
And that's what the little sign on the outside, I really don't know.
How many windows did you do?
I think there's 28.
I don't know why. I think, and you talk to your neighbors?
I have talked, I actually, the neighbors that live across the street, they're only tenants in one of the apartments, one of the homes. The owners live in California, so I sent them the notice. Carl Tarbox is not there, hasn't been there for years. I sent him a notice, I think he's in Florida, but I did talk to the two abutting neighbors on this side.
Now, is this near the Afghan house across the street?
This is about 5 houses down,
5 houses down,
5,
this way
6.
or
towards Route 1.
towards Route 1?
Yep. Well, yeah.
Yeah. I know the Popes are doing some really hard work on their house. They're doing a lot of work on that too. Well, good. Is there any other questions? Anybody have any comments?
So you're going from a flat siding to a shingle.
Yeah, it's vinyl. What's on there is vinyl now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that.
Yeah, this is gonna look a lot better than what is there, for sure.
Hmm.
And it's gonna have the black shutters back up. There were black shutters to begin with. They've been taken down because they did some painting. Originally, I wasn't gonna do the siding, but they convinced me if I'm gonna replace the windows, the siding is old, it's going to crack this time of year. You're never gonna get anything to match it. So I figured I might as well do it now. I didn't really have intentions of doing the siding right now, but
Whatever cedar siding was on there is gone already, they took that off and replaced it.
there's only barn boards underneath the vinyl siding. Yep, that's it.
And pictures of how the siding originally,
How it was?
what kind of siding it had originally, just whether it was shingles
No,
or.
I wouldn't have any. I think that's been like that for probably 20 years. I mean, it's not a historical home. It's an older home, but it's not like in a red,
1853 is
but it's not registered as a historical.
true, but it's still a historic home.
It is contributed.
Yeah. It would be nice to know what the original house had on it. It may not be possible to
Well,
find
the woman
out.
that owned it before me owned it for 61 years, so I don't know. She's in a home in Thompson now. I don't know if she has anything or
I'm
not.
thinking he's way further back than that.
Yeah.
Okay, I will entertain a motion.
Just to ask a question beyond this and the siding, downspouts,
There are downspouts there now.
replacing,
Everything will be replaced with some sort of composite, something that is low maintenance, that will look nice.
And it's the same thing that basically, from what I've understood, talking and thinking about this project, it's exactly what Sherry was going to do for her house over on Hooper Street. Remember, we passed that COA.
But that's a new house,
It was a
not
new house.
historic house.
Yeah.
It's in the same district.
Yes, but if you were gonna do a new house, this is not a new house, obviously.
No, I didn't mean to infer it was.
Not a great comparison.
Yeah.
But this has vinyl siding on it now.
That's the only thing.
And it's not good-looking vinyl siding. I mean, this is gonna look much more real than what is there right
20 to
now.
30-year-old vinyl siding didn't look any good when it was brand new.
And it doesn't look any better now, I can tell you that.
I just, you know, within what we do, I think we need to address that the aesthetics, regardless if it's just a set of window replacement or a siding replacement, it needs to be addressed in what is being projected. The downspouts, the gutters, and all those things should be
The
identified.
gutters are not being replaced.
Okay, well, that's what I'm saying, what is
No,
being
right now, there's
replaced?
nothing, only the siding and the windows of what we're working at right now.
But if, you know, I think that, you know, we need to be getting into a little more detail on what is being identified to us up front. I mean, there is no guidance for you to go by. I'm identifying to the commission that in the future, these are the things that need to be put onto these requests. Because somebody coming in and saying, I'm replacing the windows, and we say, okay, we're going to get 500 windows, and go down the street after it's all over, and other things have been done that were not identified on the application. And I'm not indicating that that's what, this is internal. Thank you.
Fine, I'm waiting to have somebody make a motion.
Or not?
I can leave it to you.
Hmm? You agree with me? Okay.
I'm not sure. That's done.
I think she came to the COA with these two particular items to do. And now, the reason that I'm affirmative in the thinking is because I know that if she's gonna, Sherry's the type of person that if she's gonna do anything different, she's gonna come up with another COA.
No, I'm
And
fine with that.
I have no
just,
doubt about that.
I wish we had better guidelines for the historic district that would eliminate the possibility of putting, even though you have vinyl siding on, you're not doing anything wrong. I hate the thought of putting vinyl siding on this house, because it's just not.
What are the only other options? I mean, you've got barn boards underneath of it, so.
Right, right.
What are the options here?
At this point, we don't have any guidelines that say you can't.
Mhm.
I would like to, moving forward, think about design guidelines that would give us something more authentic and historic. That's this is what my husband's proposing for my own house, which is an 1890s house, and it hurts me to do it. But I understand the reasoning. You have vinyl on it now, so there's really nothing that says, yes, you can. But I feel like moving forward, there should be.
You're replacing in kind something that
Yes.
was allowed to happen without any, you know, guidance to the previous owner. So I will move that we accept this as presented for the items that are presented, the windows and the siding.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. That we accept Sherry Dunbar's COA for siding and 28 windows. All those in favor show by the right hand. All those opposed?
The reasons formally stated.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And you can bring in your best friend and he can drag these things out for you.
Oh, I can think of that. Thank you.
It's gonna look pretty.
Thank you. I hope so. I think so. I had quite a few people walking by the other day, and I was asking their opinions. Actually, Lydia Kitzio, who owns the place right up, and some other people around here, and they all thought it would look really nice. So, thank you.
I think it looked great. Thank you. On the discussion of that, I agree with you on that it's difficult, we don't really have the guidelines for that.
We don't have the guidelines, and we should be able to provide the history
Yeah,
as best we can, to go back and say, did this house actually move?
sure,
Did it have?
sure, and we've done that before.
Yeah.
So that's why okay.
That kind of leads us to, in the discussion with this particular case, is that having the time frame ahead of a meeting to at least get ahead of and do some research, as opposed to we need to get it done in a hurry because there's a weather problem or there's, there's a reason why I believe that there's how long we have to do or how far ahead of time is important so that the commission can do the necessary research on the subject property.
Mhm. But you know, within the COA, unfortunately, there's no date put down, there's no
There's
thing
a
that we
30-day
could put in
window.
historical data.
There is a 30-day window in here
Mhm.
when, not to, deliberate on this, but when this was still in the ORC, I recommended that they take it to a 45-day window so that there was more time for research. And that did not.
One of the objections to that was a very short building season,
Yeah.
so.
But,
Which admittedly, this year is not a good point to bring up because we'll probably be able to build 24/7, 365.
But everything, every COA is not an emergency
Right.
thing. And basically, we had a 30-day period between meetings. And now we are pushing it to 2 weeks, 15 days.
Well, originally, our second meeting was to work on tightening up the ordinances, or our ordinance. And that went by the board because,
Absolutely. And we know what happened there, yeah.
and we didn't have a chance to do that. I would hope going forward that our second meeting of the month would be devoted to working on the ordinance, period, end of story. COAs come up the first meeting of the month.
Okay.
That's just one person's opinion.
All right, with the, since we've passed number 3, I'm going to go directly to number 5. And I'm going to ask for public comment and talking about the modifications to the historic preservation ordinance.
I would request that you open public comment on non-agenda items first.
Oh, okay, fine. Everybody agree with that?
I agree.
All right. Public comment on non-agenda items. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to stand up and be accounted for?
Okay, thank you.
All right, so let's go into number 5. Discussion of modifications to the historic preservation ordinance.
I gave you in the packet of stuff a page of what I have is approved. One of them, the first one has already, I believe, been approved by the ORC, but I think we maybe need to resubmit it since so much time has gone by. I don't know. Changes are in red.
Yeah, those were the ones that we put forward to the ORC.
Yes.
They approved, forwarded to
Right.
the select board, and
They ignored. But
they tabled it the night of the move. Okay, so do we need to resubmit those? That's my question. I think we had a discussion on that at the ORC on Monday.
okay, if we don't need to resubmit, that's fine by me.
Well,
But
what I'm going to
except-
say is, out of that discussion, they were basically asking, do we want to, leave those as they are and have them submit those right up front as we discuss new additions or amendments?
That's why I included them on this because I think there may be a change that we want to make on this, on the amendments. But the first thing, which has not come before the ORC, is 10.4.4.1, Wiscasset Historic District. For the purpose of this ordinance, I don't know what that D is doing in there, the Wiscasset Historic District is defined by the boundary of the National Historic District established in 1973.
Doesn't go to my ordinance. 10.4.4.1.
If you look at what I gave you, John,
Yeah, was it?
that
was it-
section
It's right there.
is there in its entirety.
Oh, it is, okay, thank you.
And the notation in blue is what is being deleted. It has a strike through it.
Mm-hmm, got it. Wiscasset Historic District for the purpose of this ordinance of
For the
Wiscasset.
purpose, it's misspelled in the ordinance. Somebody can't type, not my problem.
And so the red is what should be put in, is that?
Yes,
Okay. And the blue is taken out.
that is correct.
Well, let me just read it, just to read what we are gonna propose. So it's 10.4.4.1, Wiscasset Historic District. For the proposed of this ordinance, the Wiscasset Historic District is defined by the boundary of the National Historic District established in 1973. Any comments?
I
You want to
asked-
take each one at a time?
Yes.
Okay. Yep.
I asked the question Monday night at ORC. The chairman, we had a discussion of what exactly was the origin of the three sections, Village 1, Village 2, and Village Waterfront. The discussion was around that particular overlay that is now the historic district overlay that's in the comprehensive plan is closely aligned with the tax map and is not aligned with the original historic district. Now, Carl seemed to think that the original historic district, as we've discussed, is a rectangular
That's
place on the
correct.
map that includes a lot of empty space that's out in the river and all, but
That is correct.
but is not aligned with anything. I
That
mean,
is
other
correct.
than it's a draft on a piece of paper that's up in Augusta.
That is correct, because when that was put in 1973, and I worked on that, that was the only way the federal government
Accept it.
would accept is a rectangle or a square.
And that's basically what it
And
is
that's
still-
what it is.
That's what it still is, and if I'm not mistaken, and I haven't seen that map particularly, but it sounds to me like it's a larger area than this is.
Actually not.
No? Okay, I
It's got a few properties that are not in the district that we have, I believe, like 3 out that way. Without the map in front of me, I can't tell you exactly. I'll bring it in next time.
we have to request from the planning department some maps that identify these things.
They're all in the planning office.
So I said, we have to
Yeah.
get them and have them.
We all were given one when we
I
joined.
turned mine in.
Well,
I'm not gonna ask why.
No, but I'm saying that is the overlay map, which is basically a giant
Yes.
this. But the other one that is the National Registry map should also be in there. I think the town planner had gotten those things from the State Preservation Office.
Or maybe from our planning office, I don't know. The original National Historic District of 1973 is outlined on the map that goes with this ordinance, which includes the overlay. So you can see very clearly where it goes beyond and where it goes inside. Bill, are you sitting there, Bill Sutter? Okay, you were the one who told me that Carl Olson said that it was twice as big as the original, or a third again, or something?
As I recall, from when I read the application for the thing, and I've seen the original map that was drawn, and my recollection is 278 acres. That includes quite a bit of mudflats, you're right. And it is point to point to point, geographic location, latitude, longitude, goes across lots, kitty corner in many cases, and that's the way it is. The only thing I would suggest is that is what the National Registered District is. And when you make the changes to confine the ordinance to just that, then there should be some effort put forth to identify, at least on a map, by property lines, which portions of a property are inside properties and portions are inside which are outside, so you know where it is.
That's
Simple as
been
that.
done
That,
with
well,
what we've got, so it's perfectly simple
yeah,
to do it with that.
yeah.
But do you remember what the acres in the present historic district are?
I think I heard Cal mention it was something closer to 500 acres, 480 or 70 or something like that.
I doubt it, but okay.
I was here, I went to the ORC meeting when they discussed that, and I seem to recall him saying he had ran one of his programs, and he said I was very close to my estimate on the original one, and I remember vaguely him saying, and I think it was somewhere around over 450, like 460, 470, 480 acres or something like that, in the one that the ordinance defined, so.
Okay, thank you.
So would we amend that to say something like, including the entire, if part of the property is within the district, then the whole tax lot is within the district? Or would we say you only have to be historic on half of your house, or?
I don't know, that is why I think that Jamal used the village
Well, it makes sense.
offset lines. I don't know.
You can, if I may, if you're gonna rewrite the ordinance, when you write it, you can make a definition of what is included on properties within the district is structures on properties that are wholly or partially within the district.
That's-
Would take care of that, and that's,
That's the sort of thing I'm thinking,
Yeah.
so that there's no confusion
Okay,
and
yeah.
not that anybody.
Okay, so 10.4.1 Wiscasset Historic District is defined by the boundary of the National Historic District established in 1973. The requirements, I'm doing this off the top of my head, so correct me, of the ordinance will apply to any structures within properties wholly or partially within that district. Does that do it, Bill?
The only thing I'm thinking, there are some properties that might be 150 acres, and a quarter of an acre is in the district, and the rest of it isn't. Just be careful of that. So if the structure is wholly or partially within the boundaries of the district, not the properties
Yeah.
themselves. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'll get that rewritten for the next meeting.
Wendy, do you want to read it?
No.
I can read what you said, but she's gonna rewrite it, so.
Well, just so we know what, just so we have a.
Is the
more
requirements of
general-
the ordinance will apply to any structures within the properties within properties wholly or partially within that district. To any structures within the district on properties.
You were gonna ask something?
Yeah, not just the properties, but the structures.
Yeah,
That
that's what
line
I'm
could-
doing.
Yeah, that was. Fix it now or later will be a big problem.
Okay.
Just for a point of interest, has the National Historic District changed
No,
from Square, or is it the same?
not as far as I know.
All right. Let's move on and see if we can get some more out.
Okay, 10.5.2.4, this has already been approved by the ORC. And if you feel we don't have to resubmit it, or should we resubmit it all at once, do you think? With a notation that it's already been approved.
Yeah, we send it back to them, and that way we shouldn't get any feedback on it.
Right. I'm just thinking about the warrant article to make sure that everything gets into it. Okay.
Would you like to take a break?
Notice to the applicant, property owner, and abutters, before consideration of a certificate of appropriateness, the town shall inform the applicant and property owners within 250 feet of the property. Now, we have a problem that the town isn't informing anybody of anything, because the town manager will not take any money from the money that's set aside for boards and committees to allow for postage for doing this. So the selectmen, as we know, laid a fairly heavy application fee on people, much more stringent than what we had been planning to propose. But I think we've got to sort of address this. Do we hope that in the future that there will be money for us? This is not going to happen until June. So we can leave it in and submit a budget of $1,000 for the year for our committee.
Was it $40 at the
I forget, 25, I think, and ours was 10. And then I forget now what the motion was. I was irritated.
And the other thing that I'd like to see put in here would be that if you come in and you do a COA, why do you have to keep on paying each one again and again and again, $25 every time you walk in?
Because you are having to send out new notices every time. That's the reasoning behind that.
But is that price efficient?
No,
Okay,
it's ridiculous.
so let's change it.
We can't change it.
Well, we can suggest to change it.
We can suggest to change it when we get down to doing fees,
Oh, okay.
if any.
All right, that's all I need to know.
Seems to me that we don't have,
I just refresh my memory, because I remember I brought it up, and I don't remember what the discussion was, about having the property owner mail those out.
Right, and that's what's happening now, apparently. It seems to me unfair. Let's see, if you come before the Board of Appeals, you don't have to pay. You don't have to send out the envelopes. You don't have to print the letter. The only thing you do have to do is supply the names and addresses or the lot numbers which are available through the town office of abutting or, what, 500 feet? Feels like it's within 500 feet.
But I think some of the work should go toward the person doing the COA, that they should personally go over and talk to their neighbors. I mean, if you're going into a neighborhood, you want to do it, you want to make sure, you want to personally involve people. We did that with the Habitat for Humanity down on Federal Street, and I thought it worked out great. What I'm saying is that the applicant for the COA should have something to do with this. And I personally am not for the idea of just allowing the town to send out the letters, because a lot of these people won't know. And what they have to do, if you're gonna change something within a historic district, you need to get your neighbors on board with it.
That's exactly why they're invited to come to this meeting. If they have discussion about it, that's the point where
That's
they
the point
should
we
be
need to
bringing
make.
it up.
Yeah. And it's just not the town making that.
If the property owner is in California and they choose to have a representative come in, I mean, you can't talk to all your neighbors.
I don't know.
So
I think
they
you
are
can.
invited here. That's the idea behind the notification.
I agree with the notification. I'm just saying that I think some more of the work on the COA should go with the person who is moving into the
I don't
neighborhood.
think you should, I
Is
don't
there
think you
any
can
comment
legislate
on the
that.
outside? Would anybody like to make anything, say anything?
As a precedent, I've had some experience with people who make applications for a agriculture lease permit or whatever through the state. And the regulations for that require the applicant to notify by registered letter everybody within a certain distance around it. And I think there are some other things that the burden of notification and proof of notification lies on the property owner of notification. And that's a precedent for this kind of action that's out there.
Yeah.
Makes any difference.
Well, I feel very strong about that, having gone through this last month. Yes. Oh, the little house, is this the little house person?
Yes. I'm kind of torn with this because I do own the tiny house and I'm not a wealthy person, and it is quite an experience to notify everybody. I do know that the house next to me was just purchased, thankfully, and I do know that he lives several states away from me. And
Is this a gentleman who lives in Rochester, New York?
No, he lives in North Carolina. And I know that it's going to, and I've been in contact with him, and I sent him the link to Wiscasset.org and the forms and everything, because I know that he's not going to be up here frequently. But I do also know that it's important to save a house. And knowing that he won't be up here frequently, I don't want him to spend, he's like, okay, I'm gonna come up in December, and then he's gonna have to wait 4 weeks for forms, or notify all of his neighbors that he doesn't even know, or if he only has a contractor working for him, how does he handle that? And it would be sad to have a new homeowner that's coming in get frustrated with a process, and hopefully not get discouraged. It's a great thing to be able to save a home like that. And I would just hope that, and I know that we're not talking fees at this point, but, well, I gotcha. Maybe just come up with like your first time applicant fee, and then subsequent fees after that might be less or whatever. But you just want to, and also in these days of not personal contact, which is a growing process that's coming up. A lot of people just don't talk to each other. Everybody's done like emails or messaging or texting or things like that. And that might be easier for people than to actually personally knock on somebody's door. And if that person is a seasonal person, which I have several seasonal people in my street, they may not be there. Like, how do you not notify a person who is only there in the summer? I'm just saying.
I think they're both sides of the coin, and I think we have to address both of them. We can't just, allow. I agree with what you're saying, but I do know that the strength of any town, especially historical town, is is not the people who look in their hands and not talk to you. I think it's talking with the neighbors, how the neighbors think, and the fact that you're moving into a situation that might not be the norm in an urban city where nobody knows anybody, but it is norm here where you do spend time, you do get to know your neighbors, and that's a really important thing. And I know exactly what you're saying. As I said, I have just gone through a personal experience on my life, and it's a shame because there were a lot of things assumed which weren't true. And it took two people face to face to change that and to shake hands on it. So I'm really bearish on the idea that if somebody's going to move into town and I don't care if they own billions of dollars, they still have to walk in and they have to look at people in the eye and say, well, I'm going to do this, and they have to look around the neighborhood. I really think that's important. But I'm willing to listen to both sides. And it's not just me. I have certain attitudes about that, yes.
You know how when you look at the tax rolls, I mean, this is how people find out who to send these things to. 9 times out of 10, they're looking at P.O. boxes for people who don't live in town. And that's the reality. And a lot of the neighbors here, I mean, you can go around and talk to your neighbors, but they're not the homeowner. They're not the people who have any legal standing to object or not object. And so you need to come up with some kind of a scheme that would invite the neighbors who actually live there, but also notify the people who own the property.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what I think people are doing, sending out. I know that somebody did with the urban Habitat for Humanity. I believe they sent out over 10 of them, and they were all over. And he said, and he made the point saying, well, these people won't be able to make it, but at least we've sent this. Yes, Jim?
Yeah, the point she makes is exactly what we discussed earlier this year, that the registered address is often an out-of-state address. It's wherever your taxes go. It's the tax address for the year, and that has to stay consistent. The only people who have ready access to that is town government.
It's online.
It's online. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then we need to direct them, if it's going to be the onus placed on the applicant, we need to direct them to where on the town website to pull it up. But the other thing that we had put through, I think it had gotten through OR review, but it never got brought up to the selectmen, was the poster, which is the way the rest of the people in town get to see it.
That was one of the articles that was tabled that night.
Mm-hmm. No, actually, that one I don't think made it into the paperwork that went forward, if you review the files. Did it make it?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Sorry.
Okay, good, no, that's fine. Is there any more discussion on this?
Well, I just wanted to say, I agree that you should talk to your neighbors, but that's not always, that's
Oh,
not
no,
something that
I-
we can legislate, and it's not always, and we bought our house, and it was 5 years before our neighbors would talk to us, because we were from away, and we moved from Bath. I'm not kidding.
That's true, the
These
first thing they
flat
ask
landers
you.
in the outskirts, it's just terrible.
As far as this goes, for the purpose of the ordinance and a requirement is that they notify owners of record at that, whatever that tax address is, by whatever, something that they can prove they have made. I assume they're gonna have to prove to you that they have made that notice.
Yes.
So it's probably a registered letter or a,
Well, I know Sherry Dunbar did that.
yeah.
She sent out, something like 10 of them.
I don't think you can require a registered letter,
No?
especially down street. If you're going to have 250, you could have as many as
You're talking
10
about-
or 11 registered letters. What are they now, 460?
Delivery confirmation is what, 45 cents? Something like
That's what
that?
you need, a confirmation,
No,
however you get it.
It's more than that, because it comes under certification.
No, the
Something
delivery
along the line we
confirmation.
discussed that just mailing them was enough legally. I don't
Legally, yes.
remember the discussion,
But
but
the
the
discussion
regular mail
is-
was legal.
That's
But the
correct.
discussion was, how do we prove that the owner mailed it?
Well,
Um,
yeah,
And I just think that we're straining elephants, if you will.
Susan, it doesn't, the last sentence in 10.6.1.1, failure of any person to receive notice
Mhm.
shall not necessitate another hearing or invalidate any action of the commission.
Right,
So you mail it, and somebody saying, I didn't get it, doesn't cut it.
right.
So all we need to do is have some indication that it was mailed to an address of the property owner.
And the poster in that instance is sort of that's what I'm looking for. I'm not gonna find the word I'm looking for. It backs up the letter, if you will.
Yeah.
So even if you don't get the letter, you're pulling into your driveway and there's a poster in the house next to you.
That was the idea
Yeah,
behind the
That's,
poster.
I think that's why that's a good idea.
But those people may or may not have legal standing, that's the point.
That's true,
I
but
mean, that's what you guys have to deal with, is that, if they've already sent a letter to someone who, doesn't live here, who's, is an absentee landlord, whatever, they're not gonna be the people who are gonna be most directly affected by the fact they wanna, stain your, see your shingles pink or whatever. I mean, that's,
if you're
it's,
renting a place, you know that you don't have any legal standing. You can't even paint your own apartment, much less anything else.
that is true, but
That's a
you also
mindset
have
thing.
to look at it every day.
And,
one more thing there, to put it in the ordinance, for the purpose of this ordinance, I've seen some other precedents, I think there's one in the town for notifying people with like mooring permits, mailed by ordinary mail to their last known address, period.
That is when the town was doing its job.
Yeah, I know it, but
And as long as we are lumbered with not being able to rely on the town to send these things, we're SOL.
Ask the school committee to do that.
yes,
Uh,
I'll point it out. And also, these are things that you would expect a town planner to do. Talking about what what people are expected to do when they come in, because, he goes to the inspector, then he goes to the town planner. And that's why not having a town planner in place is really putting a lot of strain on just exactly.
We know that, John, but we have to work around the fact that there's no town planner at least until next June. Okay. And at the moment, the selectmen have spoken in their infinite wisdom, and it's up to the applicants.
Well, we're gonna have a lot of well-informed applicants. That's good. Okay, can we move on to
These
the next
things,
one?
if they go to the select board for approval to go on the warrant doesn't happen until when?
June.
June.
The other thing is, I mean, our ordinance, which is a law, says that the town shall inform the applicant and the property owners. So I think all we can do is go to the selectmen and ask them to approve the little monies, and we're not talking thousands here, we're talking, what, maybe maximum $10 a month for postage?
If you're just doing postage, yeah.
Yeah, that's all you're doing.
Right.
So maybe that's the way we have to go until June.
Postage and photocopies ought to be covered by the cost that the applicant pays.
Right, but
In,
what I'm saying is the town shall inform, that's the law.
yes,
That's the law now. The town shall inform. Therefore, if they insist on keeping this $25 or having the applicant pay for stuff, then the applicant will have to put a check to that particular account, and it can be designated for, Catherine, help boards and committees.
I suppose, I don't know, it's just, a lot of this happened before me.
Yeah, well, there's a line item, anyway.
In the memo section of the check, I'm sure they can write whatever they want
Mhm.
to apply it to.
Yeah.
And the treasurer, I'm sure, reads all of
there
that.
ought to be a
Quite good.
way to make this work. In theory.
Yeah, I mean, I would,
Why don't you just ask them to bring the postage?
because we can't.
Well, sure you could.
No, we can't, because the selectmen have told us we can't.
Right.
The selectmen have said everybody has to pay I can't remember.
$40.
$40?
Town manager recommended $40 and the board of selectmen approved it.
Okay, $40.
which
We
is
wanted
really
to
outrageous.
request 10.
And you're gonna
I
have a lot
have-
of demolition by neglect.
I have printed for the board approximately 50 sheets of information that's just come in this week. It hasn't broken my budget, people. It shouldn't break the town's budget. Type it once, Mimeo it from there. It's a lot more expensive to print it. You just run it through a copy machine. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
Okay, I like. to
Moving
move
on.
please.
10.6.1.2 seems to me to be awkwardly written. That first sentence, we didn't do anything about it, but see what I mean?
Hearing. The commission will hold a public meeting
Meeting
on each applicant before it.
And then applications under 10.5.2.3,
Alternate procedure for review of installation or alteration of any exterior sign, minor alteration, and temporary alterations.
but that doesn't seem to,
Do not require a public meeting if reviewed by the code enforcement officer.
but should this be saying, the commission will hold a public hearing, should be hearing, I think,
Okay.
on each application before it. The applications under 10.5.2.3 on each applicant, Okay, 10.4.2.3. Public hearing final report before the final public on the request after. It just seems.
I'm reading that sentence and going, we'll hold a public meeting on each application before it, what?
Yeah, that's,
Before it,
uh,
is that what you're?
yeah.
Each application
And
presented, each
the thing is
application
that
submitted.
does not, okay, here's my problem with it. Sorry, 10.5. It just falls off. Into nowhere. It's alternative procedure is what that 10.5.2.3 thing says.
Maybe that belongs in a different spot in the paragraph, so that you cover the standard procedure first and then the alternate procedure.
I don't know. You want to think about it till the next meeting?
I think
Or
so.
think about it, actually think about it and let me know so that I can have something typed up before the next meeting.
Mhm.
And
Okay.
believe me, I will nag you if I don't hear
I
from
know
you.
you would. We all expect it. Just to add something to your thinking here, this is the Brunswick Village Review Zone. And they have COAs. And their application review process, and just listen to this, A and B. I'm not going to read much more on this. All applicants are encouraged to consult with the Department of Planning and Development staff prior to submitting an application for a certificate of appropriateness, at which time a determination can be made as to the level of review required. During consultation, which obviously is going to be by the town planner or the inspector, department staff, which we don't have, shall provide appropriate guidance and available resources, including the village review zone design guidelines, to the applicant. Now, B says, within 4 days of an application being submitted to the Department of Planning and Development, staff shall make a determination regarding completeness. If incomplete, staff will notify the applicant of deficiencies. We're talking about letters, we're talking about, everything that's going on. If complete, staff will process the application as either a minor or major application as follows. And what I'd like us to think about also with what Susan has given us, and thank you for doing this. There are a lot of minor things that homeowners do that don't have to come before the certificate, before us.
We had started defining all that before.
Yeah, and it's difficult. They actually define, a lot of it between, they have 7 different things. Any alterations or additions not visible from a public right of way. And these are things, again, I think the town planner and his staff, his or her staff can actually.
We don't have a town planner. We
I
don't have a staff.
am very much aware of that, Susan.
So,
I appreciate your input on this. Okay. Next. Let's see what we have next.
What, and coming back, I have to do a backtrack here, I'm sorry. The 250 foot, when you know, for a butter.
Mhm.
Did we move to change it in definitions? Because butters, by definitions, is within 100 feet.
It was 250 feet because that's what the planning board uses?
Yeah. And the town shall
Planning
inform
board.
of applicant and property owners. It says nothing about abutters.
No, that's what I'm saying, within 250, the applicant and property owners.
Yeah.
But the definition of an abutter to whom these notifications have to be sent. No?
It doesn't say they have to be sent to an abutter.
And a abutter is
Here,
presumably
it says they
within
have to be sent to an
250.
abutter.
Oh, okay, I'm
It says
sorry.
they have to be sent to applicants and property owners.
I'm having,
That's okay.
Bring back.
I
We all
see
have
your
seen
moment,
that.
I'm sorry.
All right, good.
Disregard that.
Yeah. If we can get on, yes, Jim, what would you like to say?
Thank you.
The ordinance as it's written puts the onus on the town. And what's been happening since the planner position's been abolished is it's fallen on your shoulders, but that's not the way it's supposed to work. And what I would recommend you do in the ordinance is somehow define town further, saying if there's an absence of a planner in the town staff, it falls on the CEO, the code enforcement officer, or a designated town employee. Because you're a quasi-judicial body, you shouldn't be doing that type of administrative work. You should be focused on the hearings and the research before the hearings and all that. That's supposed to be done by another party. And if they're charging, especially now that they're charging $40 a processing fee, the onus has to fall, I feel, on town management.
Still is, that's what it's saying.
Right, and as it's
It is-
defined, it's been the town, but it's somehow fallen back on you since the planner position's been abolished. And if there's some way to push back to get it back,
I think now that we have a definite mandate from the town to maintain and retain the historic preservation ordinance, we can do that.
right,
But in the limbo that we've been in for 6 months, it hasn't seemed worth pursuing.
sure.
But as it's said, I think things are changing. And because right now, our CEO is not with us and will not be with us for a while because he has suffered a heart attack. And all of the work is falling into the town manager. And
Gee, really?
I have a phone conversation with her, and she made that statement. And she's been very good about it, at least that's what's gonna happen. Now, I agree that as soon as we can figure this out, we can take exactly what you're saying. Because boy, I'll tell you what, it's really difficult trying to look at the ordinance one time and trying to figure out how it approves or applies. So, with saying that, I'd like to move into new business, if nobody objects. Good. Letter to the select board on proposed COAs for MDOT demolition and construction in Wiscasset Historic District in accordance to this Wiscasset Historic Ordinance, 2013. Susan, within her folder, brought some information that some of you have already. That Catherine, would you mind if I read this out? Your recommendation?
Much more important is to read Marion Anderson's letter
Yeah, that's.
and then re-edit your letter
Okay.
and
all right.
send it
Well,
out
this is the-
tomorrow
yeah.
on town stationery.
Okay. This letter that.
Your motion.
This letter was sent May 16th, 2017.
No, John,
Wait a minute, I'm speaking, let me go on.
I would rather have you do Marion's letter first, as I requested.
Let me see if I can find Marion's letter. I will have to read it. Okay,
No, good manners because the demolition contract was
It's-
issued. Yes.
it's to Matthew W., and I guess that's the main government, Ernest Martin, CC. Dear Mr. Roderick, thank you for stopping into the office to verify the town's demolition permitting process. This is in response to your inquiry about whether town of Wiscasset permits are required for the potential demolition of the building at 36 Water Street. As I advised you during your visit, Wiscasset does not have a general requirement of a demolition permit. However, the building in question is situated in the Wiscasset Historic District and is subject to the terms of the Wiscasset Historic Preservation Ordinance. That ordinance requires a certificate of appropriateness for the demolition of any building within the historic district. Accordingly, you are advised that the town of Wiscasset requires, and I like to say that, the town of Wiscasset requires a certificate of appropriateness for the demolition of 36 Water Street building, of the 36 Water Street buildings. Sincerely, Marion L. Anderson.
I think that it would be good if we followed that up with a brief letter to
I agree.
the MDOT,
Mhm.
maybe Mr. Rodriguez. Does anyone know what his name is? Bill, do you know?
Who?
She has it spelled two different ways.
Roderick.
Hmm?
Roderick,
Roderick is correct?
yes.
His first name is
Okay.
He's addressing it on, the heading,
Rodriguez.
What's his title? Does it say?
Controller of Transportation, is that the title?
There's no title. Okay.
So the letter that I sent you, I've got copies for it. You did receive it. I had taken the letter that we had sent May 16th, and I had changed it to a certain extent and added a few things in order to do this. I think it's something that,
Did you do this recently, like today?
like today.
I would love a copy of it.
Oh, sorry.
I have a
I'll
copy.
send it to you.
If they have gotten to me after
Okay, anybody else?
Yes, please. I saw it, but.
I'm not gonna give the press any.
Oh, yeah, you better. You better.
I don't think I've got enough copies, but, I have it saved.
Then you better send us one.
Okay, you can have my copy, I'll send it.
Do you know the exact point in the ordinance that says that a demolition is subject to the historic
Yes.
preservation? What is that?
Okay, we're talking about the letter right now that I came up with, and this is, again, it's a rough draft. And if you'd like to take a look at it. I'll read the first section and then we can haggle over that part. November 16, 2017, Board of Selectmen, Town of Wiscasset, subject. Certificate of Appropriateness, COA for MDOT Wiscasset Downtown Improvement Project. Dear Chairperson Colby and members of the board, plans appear to be reaching finalization for the various components of the Wiscasset Downtown Improvement Project initiated by the Maine Department of Transportation, hereafter known as MDOT, to attempt to alleviate seasonal traffic congestion through the Wiscasset downtown on the Route 1 corridor with the outsourcing of bid on the demolishing of Haggett's garage.
I think that this should not be sent to the selectmen. It should be sent to MDOT. And all it needs to do is say, dear MDOT or whoever, please be advised that a certificate of appropriateness is needed as required by our Historic Preservation Ordinance 10.5.1.1B, demolition of any landmark, building, or portion of any building, including the removal of architectural features from an historic landmark or contributing building in a historic district. We look forward to getting your application for this certificate.
And your meeting nights.
We meet the first Thursday, thank you, of December.
7th of December.
First Thursday of the month,
December.
and we require a 1-month lead time. By ordinance, John,
I'm
you know,
not debating by ordinance. I've been talking about ordinance for a long time around here. What do you guys think?
We had this discussion before, and there was a reason that we were advised by Ben, I believe, to send the letter to the select board rather than the MDOT.
things have changed
That's,
since, I mean, the town has opened it up for us to,
okay. I just want to make
Also-
sure we didn't lose track of that.
yeah,
I think any letter that, at least things have changed, as we're saying, that should be signed. We're giving out, what I want to do is give a letter to the select board, and then when it's sent to MDOT, it should be sent by the select board. At least I
No,
feel that way.
it should be
Because-
sent
no,
by
wait a minute.
us.
Can I would like to finish, and then you can jump in. Because the town manager is acting now, and within the legal framework that we have, the way it was explained to me, she is the signature that goes into the select board and then into MDOT. And we know from what we have gotten on the court case, which thank you for putting in there, of the Wymanok LLC versus MDOT and the doctor. And then this also, from what I understand, is that the town lawyer, Mr. Peter Murray, has cleared that. And the strength of the ordinance is still part of it. I'm just talking about, it's almost better to have the town manager sign it and send it off. And I think it should go to the select board. And even if it's, that's,
the town manager.
I don't want to whack
already
people over the
sent.
head. I want to say, we've done this before, this is another chance for you to do it again.
What if we look at it from a different perspective? If I were living in a house downtown, and would you send a letter to me if I were making changes to my house, or would you send it to the select board and have them send it to me as the applicant? If we treat MDOT as an applicant the same way as we treat all the other
I see your
applicants,
point.
which we
Yeah.
should be doing,
Mhm.
to whom would we send the letter?
Jim?
The letter should be sent by the planning officer in lieu of a planner. It should be sent by the code enforcement officer.
That makes sense.
So Susan, in her role as code enforcement, officer would be the one to send it out. There's no reason why the HPC, I'm sure, couldn't draft it
And
for her
recommend it.
signature. But it sounds like the letter you just read, John, was pretty much to the point on that. The letter you wrote that she's already sent. So would it,
Well, this is, this is a letter that we wrote back,
the way of the one that was sent to the selectmen, but didn't you just read one
She sent?
that she just sent
Yes,
a day ago?
yes.
Yes.
So why be duplicative? I mean, it's already been sent, hasn't it?
This letter that she sent is only identifying one part of the process that needs
Good
to
point.
happen.
Right,
The
right.
demolition,
Agate.
the rest of the historic property
Project.
is not being addressed.
But that makes perfect sense that it would come from the codes officer rather than from us.
and the code officer is not available at this time, and he won't be available for 2 weeks, and it falls directly into the town manager's part. Catherine?
The town manager has been designated as the deputy town code enforcement officer. if that's
Good,
all.
thank you.
And I have a copy of the letter the email she sent to everybody.
Great, thank you.
This is going to come as no surprise to you that Ernie Martin has already made the case that the building is not a landmark and is not a contributing structure. So what I'm going to suggest, like I've always suggested, is you need to make him follow your book of rules, and you need to tell him what the rule is. And one of the things that it doesn't say in Marion's letter is what part of the ordinance covers demolitions.
I can understand that.
So edit the letter, send it to Marion as the acting codes enforcement officer, and ask her to pass it along in her role as acting codes enforcement officer. Does that make sense?
Is it not? That makes sense.
I hate to have it just an issue about Agate
It shouldn't be.
Garage. It is not. The issue is the entire project. As part of the project, there's Haggett's Garage. As the rest of the project, there's all the rest of what they want to do. And I think somehow, the letter, if Marion is going to write it, should include what the certificate of appropriateness requirements, 10.5.1.1 in our ordinance is, are, whatever.
The second paragraph, and this is where we could put that, what you just said, Susan. We would like to bring to your attention that although a state agency under the home rule provision, MDOT is required, as with all parties undertaking major demolition and/or construction work within the Wiscasset Historic District, to prepare and submit certificates of appropriateness for review and approval by the Wiscasset Historic Preservation Commission before any such actions can be taken, per the provisions of the Wiscasset Preservation Ordinance, Article 6, Section 10.5. As you are aware, the downtown improvement project is projected to take place within the bounds of the Wiscasset Historic District, both that defined and listed since 1972, blah, 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 National Restoration of Historic Places and the local. But I think this actually states this. And then the other paragraph, the next paragraph is, the HPC's primary duties include review all proposed alterations, construction, removal, and demolition of properties designated under the jurisdiction of this ordinance. Serve in an advisory role to the town officials. I'm going to read that again. Serve in an advisory role to the town officials and act as a liaison between local government and those persons and organizations concerned with historic preservation. Advise and inform town officials on physical and financial aspects. Cooperate with federal, state, and town officials in the pursuit of objectives of historic preservation and participate in land use planning efforts of the town, state, and federal government. That really defines who
It
we
does.
are.
It does, absolutely, and this is not the place to define.
Well,
What you are doing is saying to a state agency, you must come in and obey the law. They don't care what our job is. Trust me, they don't, John.
Oh, no, it has been well written that they don't.
And the same with the second paragraph. They're both good paragraphs, but this is not the place for them, I feel.
John, as the only person in this room who has stopped an MDOT project in its tracks, I have to tell you, you have to give them chapter and verse about what it is in your ordinance that prevents them from doing what they want to do. Because they have already given out the demolition contract.
Well, but
They
they
are
have not been
using-
accepted. They have not been
They are
accepted
only
yet.
using the National and State Registry of Historic Places as their basis. If you go to 10.4.1.4, as part of the Wiscasset Historic Preservation Ordinance, visual continuity structures of buildings contributing to the visual continuity of the historic district. Doesn't say anything about it having to be on the National Register or the State Register. This is considered a historic structure within the bounds of the historic district of the town of Wiscasset. They are not wanting to accept the town of Wiscasset's registry and our designation of everything that's within the district at this point until it gets re-reviewed as being contributed. The district is considered, whether Washington or somebody changed the designation of Haggart's Garage as to whether it ever did meet the registry qualifications or not. They're simply saying that it was alterations were made that put it in context with the National Registry. They don't say anything about how the town of Wiscasset's ordinance accepts or identifies historic buildings within its own district. The idea here, in my opinion, is that we have to have them to understand that just because they say it doesn't have any historic significance as far as the national district goes, it has significance as far as the Wiscasset district goes.
Absolutely, and also, doesn't matter if it's a contributing structure or not, any structure or alteration in the historic district that's major construction, much less demolition, has to undergo COA review. It's clearly stated in a couple of sections of the ordinance to that effect.
And the same thing goes with changing the streetscape. They're changing the visual continuity of the historic visual context and fabric of the downtown district of Wiscasset. There's no two ways about it, whether they like to hear it or not. That's what they're doing to this town. And they need to come here and explain and make a good case for why they think they should do it and why not. But they refuse, they don't seem to want to accept the fact that this commission has a standing that needs to be accepted and deal with it.
10.7.1.5 should also be called out in your letter, John.
10.1.
No, 10.7.1.5. Those are the requirements for demolition. I would point out that in the early days, we took a vote that until we could get a complete survey done. We considered every building within the parameters of the Historic Preservation District contributed.
And the way they got through that was they had one of their state people come in here with a long list and say, well, that building is non-contributing.
Doesn't matter, we have said that it is.
I agree completely with you.
And I would, I would bet that a court would uphold us because we're tighter than the state is. And if you're tighter, you get the perks.
Apparently is exactly what they were afraid of when they moved to remove federal funding, because this federal government would have had discussion with this commission and the town in what was going on.
And I don't believe, no matter what you say about that, I'd be willing to bet that the people at MDOT have read the ordinance. Because they've gone through, unless they, what they have been doing for years and years just makes them think that they're absolutely Superman.
What I can tell you is this: they're not going to worry about a town ordinance. They're not. They would worry if the federal government said, this is the rule and you need to follow it. We don't have time to figure that out. I don't have time to figure that out because the demolition is going to take place in. So, what you have to do is point them right at your own book of rules and say, this is what we want you to
That's
live
what
up
we're
to.
trying to do.
But you've got to give them chapter and verse. You've got to, or they're just going to completely ignore it.
Oh, I wish them good luck on the court case.
Well, the Hackett building will be gone by the time that happens.
I would be willing to bet on that. Anyhow, I agree with you. We have to put something in there. So, where are we going to put it? By the one on the demolition, 10.7 by 1.5. Do you want to put that?
I would, with all due respect, I would keep this a lot simpler.
Okay,
I truly would.
simple, right. I can agree with that.
Dear Mr. Whoever,
His name is Matthew Rodrigue, and it's Rodrigue, according to this.
thank you. So
It's
our
so
town
nice to have
manager
you.
can't even
Well,
address it to the
I
right
don't know.
person.
I'm looking at the blue, what they designated the
email address.
address. And it's Matthew.Rodrigue
Rodrigue, yes.
@maine.gov.
Matthew.
And then she did misspell his name.
Okay, dear Mr. Rodrigue. Okay, people. Wiscasset. Talk among yourselves while I scribble.
I'd copy Ernie Martin on that,
Mhm.
and David.
I think you should also copy the selectmen.
Do any of you have a laptop with you?
I did.
I sent a draft that I had tweaked from the earlier one, already addressed the controller, that might help us along a little bit.
Okay, well, we can still do the same subject, certificate of appropriateness for freeway for NDOT, and Wiscasset downtown improvement project. Is that okay with you? What do you think? Subject?
Yes,
Okay. Then, dear,
Mr. Whoever.
Mr. Matthew, Matthew
Well,
Rodriguez.
No, Rodrigue, no S at the
Rodrigue.
end, Rodrige.
Okay, Rodrigue.
Who's Rodrigue?
He's the DOT fellow.
Oh,
Came in and asked.
May I recommend someone different?
Well, that's who wrote, she wrote the
I
letter.
would,
CC?
I would draft this for Mary and send it to highest plane to David Bernhardt, PE, Commissioner of Transportation. You agree,
And
Bill?
copy everybody else.
Copying Ernie, copying the Board of Selectmen, copying, what, Senator Dow, perhaps?
Yeah, I would make it as this is in response to Rodrigue and carry on. There's one other thing I should point out. There was a motion from the select board, or a vote by the select board to legally contest the project in some fashion. The details of it, I don't think us guardhouse lawyers are going to come up with an answer to, and I don't think DOT is the one who makes the final decision. It's probably going to be a judge. So all of the issues and all of the arguments you might make, all well and good to run through the exercise, but in the final analysis, the lawyers quite well know what they're doing, and the judge will make a determination based on what the law is, period.
Has Murray actually responded yet? Has Murray actually responded yet?
I don't know. I have I know that she's hired a lawyer, that would be the Peter Murray.
Yes.
And, I'm really amazed that DOT has spent, they said $700,000 on this project, when there is so much writing on it that could derail their plans. As I say, I think the judge is the one that's going to decide based on what Maine law is. And I would think DOT would be rather reluctant to set a precedent of the home rule and the conditions that go with it, and these facts of this case, to set a precedent going forward that they're going to have to follow, when in many cases, if Wiscasset did not object, they would have gone ahead and done it. And I think in other places in the state, without the objection of the local town being willing to contest, they go ahead and do it. As Gina said, they're not going to care about what we think. So, as far as I'm concerned, I'll just sit back and watch the legal course play out, because that's what's going to have to happen.
Well, can I offer something? And you are?
Could I do that?
Sure, you can say
Thank you. Well, my name is Ron Phillips, and I'm a resident of Waldemar, so that's, I'm not from here. But you know that as head of CEI, we had our headquarters at Haggett for 25 years. It's a great building in good shape. I think one of the bidders was in not long ago. I heard from Jody, and they looked at the building and they were just shocked at why this was being taken down. It was, so just that remark. But I'm just reflecting on this process, and I've been around the edges of it for several months now, and devoting some time to help as I can. And I think that you all here on this commission, and the select board, and Catherine and Susan's comments, and this kind of whole package of what's going on with Maine Dot's intentions is exactly the problem. It's not just Haggett, it's the whole picture of what you're trying to do. And just this conversation tonight, I just feel so encouraged by the direction that you're going. And you've got you're touching all the right pieces. So that's, and I just want to, acknowledge that. I think it's terrific. And I think it was terrific what the select board did a while ago, 3-2, to take on MDOT. It's not just, in my understanding here, this is not just about Wiscasset. It's about some of the things Bill Sutter has touched on. It's a larger issue of municipal and citizen concerns and issues throughout the state. We need the Maine Department of Transportation, that's for sure. And there are a lot of good jobs here, workers, and we're not against all of that stuff. They do. But this particular issue here is a gnarly one. A lot of towns are getting subject to a kind of a formula of bricks and no parking and some buildings taken down. And so what happens here is important, I think, for the state. I'll just end here by saying that the retention of Peter Murray, who's no slouch in that long term, as you know, is a great step. It's not clear to me from what I've seen on the outside that Marion, I guess, is moving forthrightly to get the suit filed, but that needs to get filed to stop this. And then the restraining order and injunction follows that. The lawyer knows how to do this. The Deering lawyer, of course, has been helping to one extent. I don't think that's uncommon knowledge, but is called on to be available. So you're in a really good spot with the legal action that Bill has mentioned that needs to come. And the Historic Commission and your work here fits into that whole process. It fits very nicely. So I just encourage you to send this second letter, keep it holistic, demand that they make their case. If they will make their case that this building isn't in the landmark or contributing role, they've already explained all that to me. I've got the whole file from the Maine Historic Commission, which they checked with on all of this stuff. So they have got some of their I's dotted and T's crossed on that. But again, it's the whole picture of the rights of the citizens. And keep in mind that you voted on June 13th to reject option 2, the changes. The changes were withdrawing from the federal application, which would have put a whole different angle to this. So, what am I saying? You're in a good spot. You're doing the right thing. Congratulations. I just think this is tremendous.
Thanks, Ron.
And the bottom line of all of this, and somebody should not forget, this is not to stop DOT in its tracks. This is to ensure what DOT does is going to be acceptable and within the purview of the town of Wiscasset's ordinances and comprehensive plan.
The Citizens for Sensible Solutions is a group out there, as you know, that's been branded and branding themselves as a membership entity that is ready to be a friend of the court with the town. And that's an important relationship for that group to have, to get their 2 cents in and work through the solutions that Bill's talking about. There will be less money and all that sort of business. The ad that was put in by that group, yeah. Oh, wow, what's that one?
There's a whole bunch of them on the table over there.
I don't know that.
Would you show it to the paper so
Or
we can
not.
get it on Facebook?
If we don't all stick together, we're gonna lose.
Right, you know, that's exactly right.
This original drawing was done by Benjamin Franklin.
Oh, okay.
Not to be confused with the one that the P40 uses that says don't tread on me.
United or die, oh my gosh. All right.
Well, thank you for your comments.
Yeah, thank you.
I appreciate it. Now, getting back to the letter.
How was your scribbling coming?
Okay. Dear Mr. Rodriguez, a certificate of appropriation, good, A certificate of appropriateness is required by the Wiscasset Historic Preservation Ordinance, section 10.5.1.1 A through G. With respect to any proposed demolition, the requirements are clearly defined in section 10.7.1.5. We look forward to considering your COA application. We meet on the first Thursday of the month. We need a minimum of 5 days post notice of any hearing. Sincerely.
I think that's brief and to the point. Yes, Catherine?
I wonder if you might put, the town of Wiscasset, apostrophe S, Historical Commission, or the entire name of the group, just to make sure that they know that it's the town.
The town of, yeah, I
The
agree.
town of
Yeah.
Wiscasset, I don't know, it's just a suggestion.
You mean by the town of Wiscasset's Historic Preservation?
Yeah,
To make it town?
sound, I don't know, maybe it sounds a little more
Refer to the
official.
ordinance.
Yeah, Town of Wiscasset.
Historic preservation
Historic.
ordinance.
Certificate of appropriateness is required by the town of Wiscasset's Historic Preservation Ordinance.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Sections blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
Suggestion.
That's brief and to the point. As a word, it says, keep it simple, and I will bond for you. So I think yes, please, Susan.
I just wanted to say, I think it's important that we find out what his name is, because if we're taking it off of an email,
Oh, yeah.
they're often not the full name, so if there's
Well,
no
it's
S
Matthew
and C.
W. Rodriguez.
But that's on the email, right?
Well, I don't know what else he could do with his name.
Well, I mean, sometimes they will shorten the name because you're allowed so
Oh.
many characters.
Yeah, but no, his
No.
actual email address is.
I think his name is Rodrigue.
But we should, the point stands, we should confirm that before we email it to you.
Yes,
Yeah.
John will have to hold Marion's feet to the fire on that.
Okay.
I would suggest that this should go out tomorrow.
I agree.
Now, are you going to send it to the selectmen or to DOT?
Well, I'm gonna do what you guys want to do.
I think that Marion, as CEO, should send it directly to the DOT.
I think so. I think that it should go under her.
It should go to the controller of, no?
Chairman, the commissioner.
Excuse me. Yeah, it should.
Go to everybody.
Commissioner, excuse me, what am I saying, control? David B. Bernhardt, P.E. Commissioner of Transportation, Maine DOT, 16 SHS, Augusta, Maine, 04333.
I want his email address.
That I don't have with me.
Marion's
got it. It's all over. Got that.
But as Bill pointed out, besides the demo of Haggett, the more important thing is they need to be reminded that any proposed changes, alterations, construction of any sort, it's moving a sidewalk, changing a streetscape, whatever, has to go through COA review for our ordinance. And I don't have the ordinance in front of me right now for the paragraph.
No, it is-
specifically.
It is lined out in this, and Haggett's garage is not mentioned. It's just, everything's gotta come. Did you find this?
Well, it's the same thing. Everybody
Email
goes to
address.
ledges
I'll get it.
and buy the ledges and destroy it. You know, it's the same thing. It's part of our background, our history, and we can't do that. We can't.
But I mean, they can't have actually even start grading a parking lot or put any paving down before they got a COA review because it's in the historic district.
That's the point of the ordinance.
And if they do, we shut up with a stop work order. That's all.
So do we have a letter that we can get into my hands?
Yep.
We are gonna become a town of people looking at their hands, I can see that now.
Can I throw something else out here?
Sure.
I would, I put several copies of a article by the Bangor Daily News that indicates that the Downeaster is looking to come back here this summer. And as we are sitting here, NDOT is exercising their right to rip up the track down there where the station used to be. Just before there is going to be new tourist movement into Wiscasset. They have been looking to do this since Maine Eastern was vacated by the governor.
That's how you get them.
Say again?
That's how you get them. Because Amtrak is a federal concern.
Mhm.
That's the only way you can get them.
In the site walk of the project, when Ernie Martin was talking about the improvements on, or what they were going to do on Railroad Avenue, somebody asked about passenger service, and he said that can be done from the main line tracks. And he was correct in that. You don't need the siding to do the passenger service. However, the state of Maine purchased the Rockland branch from Maine Central Railroad, and subsequently spent $29 million for an FRA, federal money, Federal Rail Authority monies, to upgrade the track, with the justification being to maintain the line for future passenger service and for freight service to the communities along the line. What they're proposing to do on Railroad Avenue is remove the only siding in Wiscasset which can be used to provide freight service to the community. And that's part of that breaking the contract for the $29 million FRA project, and that has not been addressed or settled yet.
That's how you do it. Get them here and you can say that. I can say that.
They may be able to do it, they may not, but that's an issue that stands up there, and it means something to Wiscasset to have that ability to have rail freight service. Commercial rail freight
As
service.
far back as they
So you're gonna send that to me
had
and I'll
the open house in Brunswick for the facility.
You don't want to
Folks
include my hand scratchings?
from Amtrak,
Okay.
the
No, I can do it, I can do it.
administration, the
I
NW,
can redo it.
whatever it is.
But
And a
I would rather have you
conversation
do
with
it.
them indicated
If that'd be-
that they
I
were
know-
not
I know
going to be
that.
far away from reinitiating this to come back up here. So they have known that this is gonna happen, and they're ignoring it.
Me personally, my own gut instinct is we will never see Amtrak service here other than as maybe a seasonal 2 or 3 month thing if it was to happen, because there is not, it's highly unlikely there would be a sufficient carrying capacity to warrant it, and Amtrak is under financial constraints all over the country. Extending it is difficult. The piece they did from Portland to Boston worked, and it's been a financial success. The addition to Brunswick is working on a seasonal basis. I don't think that's all year round. To come here is more of a stretch. It's nice to think about it. Bangor is really trying to get Amtrak service to Bangor. That has not happened. The state of Maine bought what is called the lower branch from, the branch from Brunswick to Augusta. They've also done an FRA project on that. The Amtrak service, or any service that comes to Augusta, there's a big fight on whether it comes through Lewiston, Auburn, which would love to have service, or if they use a line they already own and have already rebuilt to bring the service to Augusta. Those issues lay out there, and there are, and then there was an issue, there was a a bill in the last session of the legislature for funding to study the feasibility of Amtrak service to Bangor, and that failed to pass. It didn't get out of committee. So there's an awful lot of stuff out there that is nice to think about, but it's wishful thinking, I think.
Yeah, well, right now, I want to thank everybody for their ability to sit in this chair for, as May, almost 2 hours. You guys have done a really great job. I appreciate it. We will have the letter out. I am going to take it to Marion, and we're going to have her send it in. I will, if we can all keep in touch, I will let you know about what happens in the morning, and I will also send it to as many people who like to get in touch with me, and you can look at it. And so it will be a viable piece. Anybody else want to say anything? Yes, ma'am.
Just just a thank you to everybody. I think every small town needs some behind-the-scenes forces that wake us up and make us do things.
Thank you for being here. You're our first one that we can actually, and I plan to put a picture of you on the board, and we're gonna have a brass thing, she was here.
And I'm bringing the dark.
Appreciate all the input from the citizens in helping us to work towards what the citizens want to happen in the town of Wiscasset.
Absolutely, amen.
If anybody has suggestions on simplifying the ordinance, would you, within reason, my email is easy, Susan@wiscasset.net, and just,
Yeah, it is a good email, you got to send it.
yeah.
How'd you get it?
Okay, our next.
Oh, there she is, I can give it to her right now.
I scribbled it down. Yeah, our next meeting is December 7th, 2007. We already have one COA in the outfit. I'd like to give you a copy of it. I'm talking to the commissioner. These two of them, and so you're getting it 2 weeks ahead of time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just explain one.
Well, I'm going on that shot. Okay. And I will take a motion to adjourn.
Second motion.
John?
Yes, Mayor.
On the application that you just received, I received it this afternoon, and I've looked up the abutters, and I'll try to get the notices out for you tomorrow as we've been doing, so they'll be out a little early, but at least they'll be done.
Well, I'll be at your office hopefully at about,
Yeah.
I'll be at your office somewhere around between 10 and 11.
Great, I like tea with milk.
Okay, great. Maybe I can have you take some. I do for you.
That copy back. I know I have my email.
No, not that one. Not that one. Not that one. Not that one. I know Mary said. No, not that one. The one that Mary